thought I'd talk more about spectralism, mainly its philosophy or its background, things like that, with a little bit of analysis, because it's a vast topic and it'd be good to do it justice. But also I find it interesting comparing avant-garde styles with the development of the human condition, because I think we reveal ourselves in our art. Not just music, literature, painting, theatre, the lot. So, welcome to this other video on spectralism. There's a peculiar restlessness in us. We hear something and it's not enough. We look closer, listen harder, zoom in, and somehow the closer we get, the more the world expands. I think spectralism begins here. Not as a technique, but as a human impulse, the refusal to accept the surface of things. Why do we want to hear more than we can hear? A single note should be simple, but it isn't. It contains multitudes, hidden frequencies, fragile instabilities, internal tensions. It's just like life. Spectral composers didn't invent this. They just refused to ignore it. And that refusal feels philosophical to me. It mirrors something deeper. The sense that reality itself is layered. We are always on the perceiving part of it. Life is subjective. I think. Here's the philosophical thread. This is where spectralism intersects with philosophy. Right, so take the French philosopher Maurice Merleau-Ponty. I'm learning French. So take this French philosopher. He argued that perception is not passive. He was a French phenomenological philosopher whose work centred on the idea that human experience is fundamentally embodied and perceptual. He argued against focus on pure consciousness, the Cartesianism aspect of philosophy, and he instead was asserting that our body is not just an object in the world, but our primary site of knowing it. He said that perception was like the fundamental, the primary thing. It's our engagement of the world, it's how we perceive it. Makes sense. Yeah, I can see that. Life is how you perceive it. Our thoughts, what was that called? It's like Marcus Aurelius said, isn't it? What did he say? Power of thoughts. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. It's like what Marcus Aurelius says, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Kind of similar, not in the same way, but sort of related, because how you perceive things is how life sort of turns out to be, in a way, kind of. I don't know. You may wish to think you're deluded. I digress. Maurice Merleau-Ponty, we're talking about spectralism, so let's focus on this guy. He argued that perception should not be passive, or it isn't passive. It has some deeper influence in the way we interact with the world and life and things like that. We don't just receive the world, we participate in it. So reality, therefore, isn't fixed. I guess it goes against the idea that there's a fate, a destiny. It's something we're more in control of, potentially. Life emerges through our engagement with it. And then, to me, I think spectralism feels like this idea is made audible. There's a sound that's naturally there, but then you're interacting with that sound, and that sound is then leading you to compose something that you wouldn't have done otherwise had you not engaged with the sound and the physics. But then you're not just being completely passive, are you? You're not just letting the sound ring, you're turning the envelope into a composition, and you're exploring the harmonic spectrum, and you're putting each partial to an instrument. So it kind of fits the philosophy, I think. There's a nice connection there. A sound is not a static object in spectralism. I don't think it ever should be, actually, but more so it's heightened in spectralism, I think. Instead, it's like a whole field of potential. That sounds so pretentious. Do you know what I mean? And then the act of composing becomes not controlling sound, but revealing how it wants to unfold. So there's this other relationship with sound, which I think is interesting. Applying philosophy and analysing the human condition, I think, gives us an interesting avenue into accessing that mindset and exploring the avant-garde in a more, what I would say, a more fulfilling way. In traditional Western music, we often treat notes like objects, like the building blocks of music. You know, you take something, it's like your material, isn't it? Compositional material, we've heard that term. You take it, you compose with it. It's like discrete, stable, named. You know, we name all the pitches. We've got our accidentals, we've got our keys, scales, we've got atonality, even serialism, that's named. It's like controlled, labelled, atonality. Compared to this, spectral composers ask, what if a note is not an object, but a process? So I suppose it's like when you analyse a particle, and if you start looking at it, it becomes a wave, like something can be a particle and a wave at the same time. I am thinking of it in these terms. I'm not saying you have to, but this is how I understand it. So it's like treat a note like a process instead. It's a series of waves, frequencies, less static, less able to be owned. So when you hear a spectral piece, you're not just hearing music as you would think about it otherwise. You're hearing perception happening in real time. Your ear starts to notice things that it normally would filter out. It's not what you know until it becomes what you know, then it becomes a style and it becomes fixed. But that's another topic. The things that your ear would normally filter out, you have things like beating frequencies that you might hear more. Something very granular becomes foregrounded and expanded in spectralism. It's kind of related to minimalism, it just goes one step further. As an example, Jared Grease's the sound doesn't arrive fully formed, it emerges, which is the whole point. Well, what's to say that's not already fully formed? It's a paradox, isn't it? What is a fully formed sound anyway? But it's not fully formed as you traditionally might expect a sound to be fully formed. It becomes fully formed. The point is to become. It's like us, I think we're always in a state of becoming. I don't think we ever are fixed, we're constantly changing. And spectralism, I think, explores that notion in its philosophy, which makes the experience more of a meditative experience than just listening to music like you would do whilst you're travelling to work or something. But this is the interesting thing about spectralism, because at first it might feel static. It's slightly contradictory in a way, which is why it reminds me of the particle and the wave simultaneously existing. It's simultaneously static and you might think this is boring, but it's not. So it feels static, but then something strange happens. Your ear starts to zoom in. Well, it should do, otherwise what are you doing there? Tiny shifts then become really dramatic. What you perceived as stillness becomes movement. And it's not that the music changes, it's that you change as a listener, which goes back to the philosopher, the French one. Your perception affects your reality. Like, your perception is your reality. You perceive reality, but you can alter the way you perceive it. You need to just dwell on it. You can hear the sounds changing if you listen in on them. I once page turned for the piece for Philip Guston, Morton Feldman. It's lasted 5 hours and it was at the HMF. And I don't know, when I was there it was 5 hours long. Okay, we did have a break at the interval. So it was like, I was sat there, whatever, for like 2.5 hours at a time. After a while, you kind of connect with each other performer, and things like the flute sound envelope would then blend and then drift off like a vibraphone. It would just merge. It was like sounds merged together, all the colours merged together, and I didn't know what I was hearing anymore. The blend between sounds became so seamless, they were transforming in real time. I think that's the point. I'm not saying that's spectral, but there's an element of it in there. So, the human parallel. What have I just said? What's the point of this? What's it got to do with the human condition? This is where it becomes existential, because this same process happens in life. We think we understand something, a person, a feeling, a moment, but when we attend to it more closely, it becomes way more complex, more unstable, more alive. Spectralism, I think, reflects that unsettling truth, because that depth is not comfortable. It's not. It dissolves all certainty. You've got to make an effort to listen to spectralism. But if you manage it, it also creates wonder. It makes you think. Being forced to page turn for 5 hours, I think the experience was worth it. It was physically painful to do, but it was worth it, because sound becomes something different, and I can't really explain it in words. There's a point people do this music. I know a lot of people think, why do you bother? What's the point? It sounds awful, you can't listen to it. But too many people do it for it not to be worth something. It's fulfilling in some level, and not all of it is pretentious. Well, some people are, but others aren't. I think there's also something rebellious going on here. Earlier avant-garde movements like serialism, like total serialism, where every single musical parameter was controlled, every pitch, every rhythm, every timbre, yes, even I think so. Spectralism sort of goes against that. It loosens that tight grip on controlling every aspect of sound. It lets the sound lead the process. It lets the physics of the sound dictate the process, or speak. It lets it speak louder than anything else. It lets perception of that sound guide the structure. The perception of those partials can be put onto different instruments. It's all guided by what already exists. I think, as composers, we already always compose what already exists. I don't think we can have a truly original thought because we're too immersed in this world. You can trick yourself into doing new things, like putting restrictions on yourself, composing with an instrument you've never composed before, things like that. And you can come up with things you would not have otherwise done had you done what you normally do. But with spectralism, it's like almost just relinquishing that whole sense of I am even original here, and just letting the sound lead. And I think it's more honest in that way, because I think that's what we do anyway. Like, we're governed by physics when we compose, and spectralism just lets that happen. And in doing that, ironically comes up with something new, newer than if you were trying to be new. It's kind of paradoxical. Like, when you stop searching for it, you find it. And that's like life as well. So in a way, it's less about mastery of sound materials, compositional materials, and it's more about listening without the desire to dominate. This creates a very different kind of beauty, I think. Not dramatic, not narrative, but it's immersive. And again, you can draw comparisons, parallels between this and minimalism, and even some forms of, well, lots of forms of avant-garde music. But This is definitely very immersive. It relies on it. You don't follow spectral music in the usual sense. You enter into it. It's like watching light move across water, or standing inside a cathedral as it resonates with sound, or noticing that the subtle changes in someone's voice. Like, I don't know, like noticing the subtle changes in someone's voice, for instance, when they're talking about different things, or when they're trying not to say anything at all. You focus in on the detail. It's fragile, but at the same time, it's very deeply precise. We analyse the physics of a sound, of a pitch, and explore it to the nth degree, or as much as we can. Anyway, it's unpredictable and precise at the same time. Very specific and detailed, but freer than trying to control every parameter. It's an interesting contradiction. I like contradictions. They get you thinking. Could it be dialectical? Thanks for listening to me ramble on a bit about spectralism. Spectralism doesn't just change how we hear music, it changes how we hear everything, I think. You really engage with it. Because it reminds us that the reality is richer than it first appears. That's the key thing. This attention to detail transforms experience, and that sometimes is the most radical thing that you can do. The most radical thing you can do is simply listen. Just listen a little more carefully. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. It was a French phenomenology. I think I'm happy, or maybe I'm happy, but then in reality I'm a deluded. It's actually miserable. I'm a absurdist, I think, naturally. I think I follow Camus in that mindset, which is a dangerous one. Phenomenological. But anyway, I digress.